Well, here we are post-Purim, celebrating with our B'nai Mitzvah and their family here and everyone at home, our weekly holiday, Shabbat. Last year, Purim was the last festival we had together as a community, the last time we gathered in large numbers in our building. Ironically, most of us were wearing masks that evening. Little did we know that for the rest of the year and more, we would continue to wear masks, but for a different reason. The holiday of Purim, I think, affords us two important lessons that we can help us to consider the physical isolation that we have endured over the past year, and as we prepare ourselves for the remaining months until we can gather again in large numbers to celebrate here at Beth Yeshurun. The first thing we can learn is about staying connected to each other. For the past 12 months, it may seem as though we have been separated, scattered, and dispersed in our own homes, in our own social bubbles. As I read the book of Esther last night, it struck me that that is exactly described the Jewish people in the Persian Empire when he plotted our destruction. Haman said to King Ahasuerus, "There is a certain people scattered and dispersed among the other peoples in all the provinces in your realm, whose laws are different from those of any other people, who do not obey the king's laws, and it is not in your majesty's interest to tolerate them. If it please your majesty, let an edict to be drawn for their destruction, and I will pay 10,000 talents of silver to the stewards for deposit in the royal treasury." Perhaps Haman thought that since we were scattered and dispersed, it would be easier to attack us. We seemed disconnected from each other. Isolated people are easier to assault. United we stand, divided we fall, as the saying goes. Someone walking alone on a street at night is an easier target than a group of people walking together. But appearances can be deceiving. We were not really isolated and caught off from each other, as Haman might have imagined we were. Before Esther goes in to speak to the king, she is afraid that she will not be granted an audience. So she asks the entire Jewish community in Shushan to fast for 3 days before her audience with the king. And the entire Jewish community does fast. They are unified. And again, at the end of the story, as we know, the king does not rescind the decree against the Jewish people, but rather he allows them to defend themselves. And the book of Esther says that in every province, the Jews assembled to defend themselves. In other words, they established a cohesive defense against those who sought to annihilate them. The vast Persian Empire was, in fact, historically known for its amazing intercity communication system. They didn't have the internet or cable television, of course. They didn't even have telephones or helped our ancestors to assemble and prepare as a unified force. For the last year, we have not been able to gather in large numbers in our holy spaces in this building, but we have not really been isolated and disconnected from each other. We have had the benefit of modern technology, the internet, social media, email, Zoom, and live streaming, and even the old-fashioned telephone. And we have remained connected throughout this pandemic. Last night, we had a wonderful opportunity to celebrate Purim despite the physical distance and separation. Our children recorded themselves in their own homes, many wearing Purim costumes, reading verses of the Megillah, and we shared the celebration together through the wonders of modern technology. Everyone could watch the children read the Megillah as a community, even though we were not physically together in this sanctuary. This afternoon, outside, we just had a very creative drive-by Purim, at which hundreds of our members drove through our parking lot, which was transformed into a COVID-safe Purim carnival of sorts, thanks to the wonderful creative efforts and energy of Rabbis Fort, Jennifer Rosenzweig, our kitchen staff, and so many others who put the program together and promoted it. It was a lot of fun, and it put a lot of smiles on people's faces. We are united. We are connected. We are assembled together as a community, even if we're not physically assembled in the same geographic space. And the importance of that is sometimes overlooked in the Purim story, but it was crucial for the survival of our people back then, just as it is so vital for our community today. The other lesson we can learn from Purim was underscored in Rabbi Jonathan Sacks' Purim message. Rabbi Sacks notes that according to the book of Esther, when the message went out that the Jews could defend themselves, they rejoiced. La Yehudim haita ora v'simcha v'sason vikar. The Jews had light and joy, happiness and honor. Why joy? Rabbi Sacks asks. And he answers his own question by suggesting that it was not expressive joy, but rather therapeutic joy. We were spared from a national calamity. It was a traumatic event, and one way to defeat fear, despair, and terror is with collective celebration. You prepare a festive meal, he writes. You invite guests, give gifts to friends. While the story is told, you make a rumbustious noise, as if not only to blot out the memory of Amalek, but to make a joke out of the whole episode. You wear masks. You drink a little too much, perhaps. You make a Purim spiel, a clownish lampoon of the story. Precisely because the threat was so serious, you refuse to be serious, and in that refusal, you are actually doing something very serious indeed. You are denying your enemies a victory. You are declaring that you will not be intimidated. Humor is a Jewish way of defeating hate. What you can laugh at, you cannot be held captive by. So the second lesson from Purim is to laugh and rejoice in spite of our physical separation and in the face of all of the other challenges that we have faced this past year. So let us not hesitate to rejoice, to be glad, to make jokes, to celebrate our holidays together, including this weekly holy day of Shabbat. This is a weekly opportunity to celebrate life together with our family. It is also a weekly opportunity to celebrate as a community through modern technology, even if we cannot be physically together. By celebrating, we make a statement that we will rejoice and be glad that we are alive, that we have a treasured heritage with a faith that has survived millennia. We have a spiritual, cultural, and intellectual tradition that can carry us through whatever challenges we might face. And one last thought. The Torah portion that we will read tomorrow begins with the commandment to prepare pure olive oil for lighting the lamp in the sanctuary. Our sanctuary has an eternal light, a ner tamid over the ark, to remind us of that original lamp in Moses' day. Light dispels darkness, just as laughter can dispel fear and anxiety. And that is one of the many reasons that we also light Shabbat candles, to provide warmth, comfort, and a sense of security and serenity at our Shabbat tables. So now, as we prepare to celebrate our weekly holy day, the Sabbath, let us celebrate as our ancestors did in the time of Esther and Mordechai. La Yehudim haita ora v'simcha v'sason vikar. The Jews had light and joy, happiness, and honor. But most importantly, let us celebrate together as a community, united in spite of our physical separation. Shabbat Shalom.